Hello, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein. Thank y'all for joining me again tonight. And we will be reviewing the first chapter in the book As a Man Thinketh. Hopefully you can see that right there, by James Allen's. And you've been hearing a lot of his stuff from this last year over the course of his daily meditations. We did January 1st to December 31st of 2023, and I added in February 29th. So if you guys are listening to that this year, you'll actually see or be able to hear along with the leap year, which is pretty cool that he put that in. I'm glad I recorded that last year. So I'm excited to see this, and this is going to be the first video podcast that I've ever done. So bear with me. There might be some snags, some snafus, some things that don't go quite as smoothly as I anticipate, but that's part of the fun of this whole thing. It gives me the opportunity to grow and experiment and change and do a couple of different things. So I'm looking forward to it. And this is my office, as you can see. One of my bookcases, and I got another one over across the room that maybe sometime you'll be able to take a look at. So forgive me, I've got the video feed over here on the laptop that you can't really see too much of, and I'm looking into a ring light right now. This is all new to me, so I'm excited to do this. This is a personal challenge that I took on for personal growth for me, so I am extremely excited. I will be also posting this to the YouTube channel for the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. I opened a YouTube channel for it as well. I'll be posting it to the Facebook. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook if you'd like. And I'm excited to do this today, and I hope you all are too. If you haven't listened to the first two episodes from this year, the first one was pretty good, kind of going into an overview of the first half of the year, I'd say. And then the next one was a reading of the first chapter of this book. And it included the foreword to it as well, which was quite short. But I wanted to read that so people could take a listen to that so they knew what we were talking about today and what I was going to kind of do a study of or a review of. Now, this book is extremely dense, though it is short. Okay? So every paragraph, every paragraph has the ability to have so much information in it. And I don't want to make this 3 hours long. So it will be a quick dive into it. I'm still going to call it a deep dive, but a faster deep dive, if that makes any sense. Just some really cool things that I've taken out of it that have helped me along my path while I've grown spiritually and I've kind of experienced this whole thing. So I'm excited to do it. And this is the book that I'm reading out of. This is the copy anyway. There's so many copies. I'm not sure the year on this bad boy. This is leather bound, and but it doesn't have a printing date. Just more so printed in the United States of America. So, but we will be doing the first chapter, which is called Thought and Character, as well as the foreword too. So, let's go ahead. And we're going to get started. You'll hear some pages flipping. I'm going to be picking this book up regularly and to reference it, to have direct quotes from it. I do have a little bit of what I want to talk about written down in front of me. So if you see me looking down or picking something up like this, that's what it is. So thank you all for your understanding, and thank you for joining me on this first one. So here we go. This is the foreword and first chapter of James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. Let's get into it. So, the foreword, he talks a little bit about, in that first line there, really, it's not an exhaustive treatise on the much written upon subject of power of thought. One of the things you've got to understand, or accept, maybe, going into reading this book, is the impact your thinking has. The impact your thoughts have on your day-to-day living, on your circumstances, understanding that the things you think about hold significant power in your life. Okay? These are what we have to kind of start on the basis of. This author, James Allen, was around during the height of the New Thought movement, which was predominantly a Christian movement, actually. It was based on Christian, it is a Christian principled program, but in religion and practice, really, I guess is a better way to say it. And James Allen was a part of that for a little while, but though he just stepped away at the end, though I do not remember why. But his writings and his practices really focus on living spiritually, focus on living rightly. They focus on doing the right thing for the right reason, and selflessness and service to others, which is then in turn service to God, is what we're talking about. But or it could be whatever your God is too, right? I say that often on this last year of podcast, that could be, when I say God, that could be society for you. That could be nature. That could be the universe, that creative power, that energy, whatever that is for you. We're not here to tell you it's wrong. I'm not here to tell you it's wrong. What I'm here to do is talk about living well and talk about what's changed my life and what's brought me an amazing experience. So he's establishing that in this forward, really just saying, hey, we all know the power of thought is absolutely incredible, but he wants to talk about how it shows up and in what way, in what perspective. You know, to say your thoughts are powerful is great, but it's quite simple, right? This is an exploration on how powerful and how to take some responsibility through the power of your thoughts for your life, right? That's what this whole book is about. And it's this first chapter, Thought and Character, is how thought affects our character, right? So he says in there, one of the quotes was, they themselves are makers of themselves. I mean, that's the quote right in the middle of the whole thing. And it goes along with this entire thing. What he's trying to establish is you are 100% responsible for you in your life. It is you. You can't blame anybody. You cannot shrug things off. You cannot put the power outside of yourself. You have to take ultimate 100% accountability and responsibility for what you're doing in this. So, that's it. The power to change our lives is in our own hands. So this is that's kind of seems to be an obvious thing, I guess, right now, but it's one of the things that comes along with it. It's not just, hey, the power's in your hands to change your life right now. That's great. But for that to actually be effective and heard, you have to, when you accept that, it means in your life up until this point has always been in your hands. So you're now responsible, and you have to take responsibility and accountability for you in all of your life, going forward and past, right? So that's why some people don't like this, is it forces accountability on a person. You can't say, oh, my thinking's going to change everything moving forward. If you believe that, then you have to take responsibility for your past as well, what you've done in the past and your immediate circumstances. That's where you are. Is if what you think and what you do can change your future, that means your past has been shaped by what you've previously thought and what you've previously done. Seems simple, but it's an ultimate form of accountability, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and we'll get into chapter 1, which is on thought and character. I'm not going to obviously read every single paragraph and every single line again. That was what the last podcast was about. But as I go through, I will be referencing specific quotes or paragraphs. And I know I can't use page numbers purely because there is so many versions of this book printed. So many, and the pages are all varying and everything. I I don't even know how many different copies I personally own. I've become a collector of James Allen's literature, trying to get his early stuff. Like this is, I'm not sure, like I said, not sure how early, but it's pretty. It feels more. It feels like I can connect to it almost easier, or in a way, it feels like the book has more power when it's older, which that's just the way I think about it, I guess. But it's pretty fun. So let's go ahead. We'll do chapter 1 on thought and character. So this is obviously from this, from the way it's phrased on thought and character. And what is character, right? Let's talk about the definition of character. In the first paragraphs, he really says, let me see here. The complete, at the end of the first paragraph, a man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts. So, and that's important. Your character is everything you think about. It's not just what you want to show people. And what we'll talk about here in just a second, actually, is all of your thoughts will eventually come to the surface through your actions. Right? Everything that is your character, which is all of your thoughts and all of your conditioning and everything you choose to follow in your mind and associate with, the opinions you decide to have, the ideas you decide to entertain, is because your character, and all of it will show up through your actions. So we're talking about how your thoughts become your character in this real world, or in this physical world, and the character that people see, the character that you embody. So the premise of this book is named after actually a Bible verse. Surprise. Like I said, he was associated with the New Thought movement for a while. And the verse is Proverbs 23:7. And it reads, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he." Right? So that's why the title of the book is As a Man Thinketh. And he goes into in these first paragraphs about how this is such an all-encompassing statement. Right? This is something that affects every area of your life. It affects it shapes every instance of you, every perspective of you. So it says here, a man is literally what he thinks. It is. All the fears you hold in your head, what you're scared of, all the perspectives, opinions, and ideas that you take. That is you. Just as much as your body is you, right? Honestly, your body serves the mind, which is pretty incredible. So, that definition of character, that's important. Thought is all the ideas and perspectives that you entertain, and character is the accumulation of those thoughts as illustrated through your actions. So, he talks about also, I think that's the second paragraph, as a plant springs from and could not be without the seed. So every act of man springs from hidden seeds of thought. It could not have appeared without them. This applies equally to those acts called spontaneous and unpremeditated as those which are deliberately executed. Okay, so important stuff. We're in paragraph 2 of chapter 1. We're in very important stuff already. It's the premise for this entire book. It's the understanding of the linkage here, right? So he gives a metaphor that you just heard, and he's talking about a garden, right? He's talking about how a seed leads to a plant, and then later on he talks about how there's the fruit of that plant, right? So if you're getting apples, let's say, if you have apples, you have to have an apple tree, and to get an apple tree, you need an apple seed. Seems logical. And what he's saying is the order of operations here is your circumstances and your character and your consequences, and where you are in life is your fruit. These are the results of what? Your actions, which is the tree. That's the plant that you're harvesting these things from. And then the idea is the seed. Okay. So it goes the seed to the plant to the fruit. It goes thought to the action to the consequence. This is incredibly important stuff at the end of the day. This is how our character will always show. And he talks about in it too, even the spontaneous ones, just as much as the deliberate. Okay. Everyone thinks, well, I didn't mean for that to happen. I didn't take that action on purpose. I didn't, very much, I don't know, not just excusing their behavior because it was, I didn't intend for that to happen. But I am under the firm belief that every action that you take, whether it was impulsive or not, whether it was one of, what was the word? Deliberate. I'm sorry, I was coming up blank here. Whether it was deliberate or not, right? They all start with a thought. Now, some actions have become reactionary because we've thought about it so much that we've trained our body to just react. But the thought is still there. It's just a lot shorter timing from the processing of it, right? It all starts with a thought. I believe it. That gives you the power to change. That's why everybody that I hear say that's just how I am, I've always been that way, it's a cop-out and excuse. It really is. You can change absolutely anything in your life. You can change absolutely any behavior and perspective if you're using those phrases. That means you don't want to change. Simply, it just means you do not want to change. You enjoy it for some reason. It still serves you somehow, and you don't want to change it. And that's fine. Well, it is fine. I can't do anything about it. But I would encourage you to explore other options than resigning yourself to a behavior that does not serve you well in the end, if you are saying that. If it's a good behavior, positive, healthy, keep on going with it. That's fine. But no, you have a choice every single time, whether you do that or not. Pretty powerful stuff. So the next part it goes into is this kind of little poem. And it's a very interesting, and it talks about how evil thoughts lead and is guaranteed that there will be pain afterwards. And from good and healthy and pure thoughts, joy will follow. So it's a direct association of if you're getting pain, you're having these types of thoughts. If your life circumstances are painful, you're having these types of thoughts. If you have joy and happiness in your life, you're having these types of thoughts, pure thoughts, good thoughts, right? I mean, the association seems pretty simple at the end of the day. Yes, I believe it is. It's pretty straightforward, and I agree with it. And he makes an interesting comparison in this poem, though. He compares evil, painful thoughts, evil thoughts, as an ox pulling a cart. And it's as sure as a, let me read it real quick. It's phrasing, because the poem is a little odd, but hath evil thoughts, pain comes on him, and as comes the wheel, the ox behind. So as pain is guaranteed, pain is as sure as an ox carrying a load, right? It's heavy, It's work, it's effort, it's a pulling, it's a dragging backwards almost. It's crushing, it's a heavy thing, right? That's what these evil, selfish, really, at the end of the day, thoughts are. He'll use the term sinful in some of his other works, actually, which I know is a hot term, but really, if you understand what he means by it, which is just ignorance of a self-serving action. So in other words, you're doing something that serves yourself. It serves a purpose to either protect you, make you feel good, make you feel powerful, something like that you learned at some point. You haven't learned about a different way to live, then it might be sin, but it's really just ignorance. All sin and evil is really just ignorance. So he compares these, though, to this working farm animal, ox, pulling this heavy load. And then he goes directly after that to if one endure in purity of thought, joy follows him and his own shadow, as his own shadow. Sure. So he's talking about that. You'll get joy, but it's not this heavy thing, though. It's this consequence of living in light. It's this consequence that always will happen when you're living in pure thoughts and you're taking on pure thoughts and joy. So it's not a weighted thing. It's just there. We don't even notice it. It's not a burden to carry, I guess is maybe the better way to say it. So it's not only is it interesting, the associations that he uses, but just like the symbolism within it, because it's kind of a heavy, working, painful thing comparatively to a thing that has no weight. It just occurs. It just happens, and it happens when there's light, right? And James Allen actually, in many of his other books, talks about knowledge and awareness being the light that expels the darkness, which is evil and sin. So, which I agree with. So I like the picture he paints in that little poem there. So, and directly after it, though, it was a line that I've had to think about a little bit, and it talks about man is growth by law and not a creation by artifice, and cause and effect is as absolute and undeviating in the hidden realm of thought as the world of visible and material things. So that comparison, or excuse me, that statement, man is growth by law and not creation by artifice. I thought it meant I had the wrong understanding of artifice for a long time. So I looked it up specifically so we could talk about it. Clever or cunning devices or expedients, especially as used to trick or deceive. So we're talking about deception. So what we're talking about is man is grown. It is created, and that is who we are. Through experience, we learn and change and adapt and become, right? Not a creation by artifice, not this manipulative deviation, manipulative, deceiving thing, right? Like if you want to accomplish something and want someone to do something for you, but they won't do it unless you behave in a certain way, right? That's what we're talking about here. Your character isn't created through deception. It's not created through these manipulative ways. So the change we have to go through a process of growth and change to get these things. If we try to do it the other way with deception and manipulation, we're going to end up in painful situations, hurting ourselves and others. So it's a very big phrase there. And then he goes right into that. Cause and effect is absolute, is as absolute. This is true in thought and the physical world, right? So cause and effect, Newton's law, right? So it's when an action is taken, there will be a reaction of equal impact or value. So, and I know I'm probably butchering that. Please forgive me, but I think that's the general premise. So if I take a pen and I throw it, it will move. It will fly, right? Physical representation. The thought, though, is the same exact thing. If I think negative thoughts, evil thoughts, sinful thoughts, but I'm going to really, I think the most accurate way to say that actually is selfish, self-centered thoughts. I come from a recovery background, so this is something that's been really driven into me. So selfish, self-centered thoughts, there will be pain. This happens, that is the result. It was cause and effect. This is traced back not only if there is a law that applies in the physical world, material world, it applies also in the spiritual mental realm, which I thought was a pretty cool understanding to get. These spiritual laws apply in all planes, which is very interesting. So what he goes in to say, that part is the godlike character. Godlike character is not a thing of favor or chance, but it is a natural result of continued effort in right thinking, the effect of long cherished associations with godlike thoughts. So if you want good character, if you want godlike character, because that's really what we're striving for, right? The target is on Christ-like character. Righteousness is a good way to say it because it takes the deity part out of it, maybe the religious part out of it. But godlike character, we're talking about virtues. We're talking about like virtues like honesty and faith and hope and love and forgiveness and courage, integrity and strength, and these types of things, right? These come from a very deep place, right? And that's what we strive for. But you can't want to have strong character. You can't desire strong character, but have weak actions. You can't have selfish, self-serving actions when you know the virtuous thing to do would to be a different action, right? So what he's saying is, if you want that character, or more so actually in this the specific terminology he's using here, if someone has godlike character here, they've been focusing on godlike thoughts, meaning they've been focusing on honest thoughts, they've been focusing on loving thoughts, being of service, right? Practicing that way of living. They haven't just hoped they got there by chance. That's not how this works. And he goes on to say, and then the opposite is also true. If you have bestial, meaning a completely selfish, self-serving, pleasure-driven lifestyle, like you only do things that serve you and make you feel good about yourself. That's it. If that's all you do, that's a very bestial lifestyle. And that comes from only thinking about those things. Like, how can I get over on this person? How can I get what I want out of them? How can that person serve me? How can these, what can I do right now to make myself feel pleasure? Right. I mean, that's what, I'm sober, like I said, and that's why I would drink. That's why I would drug. I wanted to feel pleasure right now. It was a completely self-serving thought because there was a lot of pain going on, and the pain was caused by selfish and self-centered thinking too. So I was creating pain with the way I was thinking, and then I was living a way to make myself feel pleasure, which was the only good feeling I thought that was really possible. I didn't know there was another way to live. So, righteous character, righteous thinking. Bestial character, bestial thinking. It's as simple as that. Which, I don't know. To me now it's pretty clear. But when I was first living this way of life, it wasn't. I didn't understand what selfishness looked like or self-centeredness looked like. So I've had to take it took a while to sort it out. But when you start sorting it out and start really looking for your own selfishness and self-centeredness, you find a lot of stuff, and the depth it goes to. There's layers to it. That's been my personal experience. There really has been layers to this thing. So, and he goes after that into the man is made or unmade by himself, and he gives another great metaphor here. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds himself heavenly mansions of joy, strength, and peace. So think about this, right? He reiterates the basic concept here of man is made or unmade by himself. Like, remember, like he's throwing it out there. Remember this, you are responsible for who you are. And it's in your mind. You do one of two things. You do one of two things. You create weapons to destroy yourself, or you create tools to build yourself. It's your choice. What I like again about this, I like there's some depth to what the symbolism that he uses here. Both take the same resources, right? Talk about, the weapons of the time. They take wood, they take a metal, they take time, they take energy, money, effort. All that is different between the two things, a weapon or a tool, is intention. What are you trying to build? A weapon to destroy or a weapon to build? It's in your capability to choose what you would like. And when I realized I learned that I could choose, it was a whole different experience for me. I was able to grow and start to choose differently. And that's your choice. I was so used to creating weapons to destroy myself with that I didn't know there was another option for a long time. But it's all right there. It's all sitting right there. Choose differently to make different resources for yourself, different tools for yourself. Make tools to build beautiful and glorious creations rather than weapons to destroy who you are. He goes on here to say, by the right choice and true application of thought, man ascends to divine perfection. So we were that righteous character we're talking about, that godlike character, Christ-like character, virtuous character. And he says, by true application of right thought, so selfless, of service, virtuous thinking, right? Like, what are you thinking about? What thoughts that cross your mind are you grabbing onto in a day? What is really something that you're listening to, right? The wrong application of thought, he descends. This is interesting. This was very, very cool to read. Maybe not cool, but crucial to understand. He descends below the level of the beast. Below the level of the beast. Now everyone thinks that you can't go below animalistic behavior, but we can. The problem, or how that happens, is we are animals. We're in an animal body that's been blessed with a higher intelligence. So we can exploit and pursue those animalistic desires to a point where normal animals cannot. We can destroy in incredibly efficient ways to serve ourselves, guys. That's the incredible things. We will actually go below the level of beast to something completely different because we're using the gifts we've been blessed with for negative and destructive things. So we would just destroy all. It's a very real thing to understand. We can ascend higher than anything, but we can also fall below everything. It's scary to think about, but it's so true. It's impressive, actually, to the extent we can go to sometimes. And he finishes that that paragraph with, between these two extremes, all grades of character and man are all grades of character. So godlike character, below bestial character, and all between, right? And it's all up to you. It's all up to you and what you're choosing to actually follow. what you're choosing to think about, what thoughts you're choosing to hold on to for dear life, and what thoughts you're normalized to, really. So, all right. Now, this is kind of it goes into a really cool line here. Of all the beautiful truths pertaining to the soul which have been restored, restored is an important word here, restored and brought to light in this age. This age, none is more gladdening or fruitful at divine promise and confidence than this. Man is the master of thought, the molder of character, and the maker and shaper of condition, environment, and destiny. Okay, so why that is so important, why that is so amazing of a statement to me, is the soul which has been restored, beautiful truths pertaining to the soul which has been restored and brought to light in this age. Think about that. Restored and brought to light. It's always been there. This is a principle and a law and an understanding that was there a long time ago. This is one reason that I believe in what I believe in. I believe in the spiritual way of living, and where it brings us to is because it's always been there. It constantly gets rediscovered. It constantly gets brought back into the world. It constantly helps us grow and be better people, regardless of religion, regardless of practice, regardless of demographics. These spiritual truths always seem to come to light. They always seem to come to the surface. And they are applicable in the mental plane, the spiritual plane, the physical plane. Like I said, these rules that apply in the physical world have a spiritual law behind them. There's something governing all of these things that have existed before them and will exist after them, I believe, too. Which is an incredible thought. So these teachings and these laws are things that have always been, guys. And they've been brought back to light in this day and age. And this was 110 years ago, 1903. I think this was written in 1903. So 120 years ago is when we're talking about. And again, in today's day and age, these are understandings and realizations that are constantly being rediscovered. They are being brought to the surface. They are being reintroduced in different ways, but they're still the same concepts, same underpinnings as what he talks about in this 50-page essay from 1903. And it was talked about much earlier than that. We're talking about a lot of his influence came from Middle Eastern religions. I think it was Light of Asia was one of the biggest things he read. He came from philosophers like Emerson. It came from the Bible, teachings of Christianity. Like, these are all different time periods that these things were established and found. It's incredible, and I find it very powerful to think about it that way. So, and it's cool the one he picks out because it goes right along with "As a Man Thinketh," right? It's the man is the master of thought and molder of character, and the maker and shaper of condition, environment, and destiny. So the power, literally, he's saying the power is 100% in our hands, and it's available for us to just embrace whenever we realize it and decide to. It's completely up to you. So, skip a page here. Hold on a second. Sorry, y'all. Oh. All right, there we go. Sorry, I had turned the page already. My bad. So, and I had an alarm on my phone that I should have turned off. I apologize for that. I forgot about it. Anyway, so we're going on to finish up here on that. Right after that, man, as a being of power, intelligence, love, and the Lord of his own thoughts, man holds the key to every situation and contains within himself the transforming and regenerative agency which will make him, which he may make himself what he wills. So power, intelligence, and love are all capitalized on this, which usually means that he's talking about a power greater than himself, a divine something, right? That God, deity, that creator, that energy, that source of the universe, whatever you want to call it, Mother Nature, and some people in the more agnostic, atheistic leaning might just say society. human society, whatever you want to say. But the power, intelligence, love, that's what we are made of. That's what we're comprised of. And that's within us. So we are the Lord of our own thoughts. We hold the key. We're sitting here wanting life to change for us, but we're the ones with the key to change it. We're the ones that need to go to the door, put the key in the lock, open it up, and open the door. That is on us. But we don't know that. Many don't know. I didn't know that. Let me keep it on me. I didn't understand that for a very long time. So it's pretty cool to see that now, I guess. We hold the key and we create, regenerate ourselves. How did he say it? Transforming and regenerative agency by which he may make himself what he wills. What he wills. What will we be doing? We can choose to practice this way of living, an honest way of living, a righteous way, a virtuous way of living. And then when we follow that path, we can grow in our knowledge and understanding and use our will appropriately and walk out of the self-made prisons that we've put ourselves in, right? It's up to ourselves to transform and regenerate ourselves. I like how he used regenerate because I came from a very dark place and painful place, and one that many die from, actually. So to be able to use that word regenerative, we can recreate, we can be reborn, regenerated into new men, new people. Just use the key we've been given. That's one of the most inspiring and hope-filled statements you can give a man that's in utter despair and hopelessness. And that's the next paragraph says that, and man is always the master, even at his weakest and most abandoned state. Even in your most decrepit, even in where you've lost the most, you think you're the most hopeless. It can be a painful realization. I will not lie. But in that pain, you can find so much hope when you realize you are 100% responsible for it. You have just mismanaged your entire life, but you have, because you've been selfish and self-seeking. When you can grab onto that and flip that over and then take accountability for all of it, which means you get to have accountability for the future. You get to more intelligently designate what you're going to be doing. You're going to more intelligently go along with this stuff. Okay, so you'll put the effort and energy and time into more appropriate things that'll help you grow and change, instead of focusing on the negative and blaming the world and blaming a judge or a family member or an ex-lover or whoever. You say, I did this and I will not continue to. And you make different decisions and you start thinking about different things, about honest and loving things, kind and forgiving things, being a person of integrity and joy. These are big things, guys. These are huge things. So, in the last paragraph, he talks about it, though. He talks about mining diamonds and gold, and how we have to mine our soul for these things, how we have to look within ourselves and take this time and effort to actually do this stuff, right? Because it's all sitting within us. And it uses the pictures of diamonds and gold because they're just sitting under there. They're just waiting to be discovered. All of this stuff, all of this spiritual knowledge, all this spiritual awareness is sitting within you, waiting to be brought out, waiting to be utilized and leveraged and used to build an entirely different life. It's just waiting there. But you have to go look for it. You have to go dig for it. You have to take the initiative. He talks about almost an experiment to take, really, at the end of the day. And will dig deep in the mind of his soul, and that he is the maker of his character, the molder of his life, builder of his destiny. Again, he's reiterating this over and over again just to give us this understanding. He may unerringly prove if he will watch, control, and alter his thoughts, tracing their effects upon himself, upon others, and upon his life and circumstances, linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation, and utilizing his every experience, even the most trivial everyday occurrence, as a means of obtaining that knowledge of himself, which is understanding. So I know, long sentence, right? But if you will watch, control, and alter his thoughts, tracing his new thoughts' effect upon himself and others, and upon his life and his circumstances, linking cause and effect so really paying attention to what's happening, right? I was thinking this, so I took this action. What happens with that, right? Linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation, and then utilizing every circumstance you're in to practice this. Every single thing, every decision you make, thought you have matters when it comes to this stuff. And I'm not kidding. Even the most selfish, minor detail matters. And if you are willing to do that and take those actions and really experiment and try to focus on positive. There's this concept of gratitude lists and all that stuff, which works. We're talking about the power of positive thinking. Yes, I get all of that. That is all true. But it takes practice and effort. You're not going to do it right in the beginning. At least I didn't. Some people, maybe they'll pick it up immediately and everything will change immediately. That wasn't the case for me. Things started changing, but it took repeated effort and purposefully changing my thoughts. Even though it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel comfortable, it feels different. It was hard to find the thought to change it to, and it wasn't always the right thought I changed it to. But I changed it, and I saw how it changed me, and it changed my life, and my character, and who I was. So I love all of this stuff. I'm very excited to be doing something like this. So this last part here is, in this direction, as in no other, is the law absolute, that he that knocketh findeth, he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. All you gotta do is look. If you start to do this and you start seeking this, you will find it. But you just gotta look. And you have to make an honest attempt to begin this, and you'll be amazed what can happen. And he ends it with this. I love this line. For only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity, which is persistence to the point of annoyance, meaning every instance you could, can a man enter the door to the temple of knowledge. Door, temple, and knowledge are all capitalized there. So those are all parts of that power, that God, that greater thing than you. So it takes patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity. Persistence. And it leads to this discipline to change your life. So that's it. That is chapter 1. The next chapter will be effect of thought on circumstance, and it's a longer chapter, so I'm going to try it. This was me keeping it short. We got a 50-minute video clip here, so I will see how a longer chapter goes. But this was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope y'all did too, and I'll be looking forward to next week. I will be reading the chapter thought on the circumstance, and then 2 weeks from today I will be doing another video podcast. So it's real exciting stuff. So thank y'all for joining me for this, and I look forward to the future. So until next time, thanks.